mean for the broadcast. Yeah, okay. Hello, hello. Oh, I am on. Okay. Good morning. I apologize for the formality. I normally would not stand here. Good morning, Chris. Good morning. I normally would not stand here behind the podium, especially with such a small group. Maybe if the room was packed, I would, but we are broadcasting this morning, and not live, but we are going to run it on Channel 18, and we do the replay, as you probably have noticed, with governing board meetings. And so we're going to do that with this broadcast. We think there's a lot of good information that people will want to see over the course of the summer as they make decisions about enrolling their students in MUSD. And so I'm going to cover some of that stuff today, obviously, that would be of interest. And then it'll also be on YouTube. So that's what we normally do with our governing board meetings. We broadcast live, we do the replays, and then we put it on YouTube. So anyway, we're doing that today, and I haven't ever done that before for a parent meeting, so we're trying something new today. So anyway, good morning, and good to see you this morning, and you'll notice that I have a big Band-Aid on my ear, and I grew up in Seattle, and I am living proof that there's a lot of sun in Seattle in the summers, because when I was a kid, all the way through high school, I spent a lot of time in the sun, and literally since then, I have not spent much time in the sun. But I have a skin cancer problem, so I had a little procedure on my ear, so I'm still wearing the Band-Aid. So anyway, that's the reason. Have several things to talk about today. I'd like to talk about our 2015-16 budget that the governing board is working on. I'd like to talk about our new gifted program, and I'd like to talk about AZMerit testing, which started this spring and is the new state test. So I want to talk about that. Also, I want to just fill you in kind of a end-of-the-year recap, the positive things that have gone on in our school district this past school year. We have a lot that we've accomplished this year. We have a lot to be proud of, and I think it's good to just take a little minute and celebrate that, because oftentimes we don't do that. You know, we're always moving on to the next thing. So I'll go through that information quickly. And we have a small group, so we'll be informal. If you have a question, you're welcome to ask. The only thing is, since we are being broadcast, I'm going to hand you the microphone. You will ask the question, and then you can hand it back, and I'll do my best to answer it. So anyway, we can still be informal. And yeah, we'll try to go about an hour at the most, and then take questions at the end too. I used to call this a parent superintendent coffee, but you know, it's too hot to drink coffee right now, so we're not having coffee today, so I'm sorry about that. But that's the reason we have the coffee cup there on the first slide. Wanted to remind everybody about our MUSD vision statement. It is a community dedicated to student success. We really are a learning community. We take that responsibility very seriously, and we want kids to succeed. Our mission statement is that the mission of the Maricopa Unified School District is to ensure all students achieve excellence by preparing them to be lifelong learners and responsible citizens that value innovation and global diversity. We're mission-driven. We're focused on helping all kids achieve, all students. All means all, everyone. Doesn't matter if they're from a wealthy family, a poor family, doesn't matter what race, doesn't matter what ethnicity, doesn't matter what religion. We want every kid to succeed, and that's our goal. We work on that every day, and we have 300 plus teachers doing a good job on that every day. And I'm out in classrooms regularly, and I can attest that that's happening. Proud of that good work that happens. We have a strategic plan that has 4 goals. Number 1 is to improve student learning and become an A-rated school district. We are a B-rated school district. We're proud of that. We were C a few years back. We've raised that to a B, and our goal is to be an A-rated school district. It's going to take a while to get there. This next coming school year, there will not be any new school letter grades. We're still in this transition with the new state test, and eventually the letter grades will return, so we will continue as a B district. But that's our goal. Number 2, to increase and expand innovative learning opportunities. You'll hear more about that. Number 3, recruit, train, and retain a high-quality staff. And number 4, improve instructional technology. So we're going to touch on those issues as we go through today, but those are our 4 big goals. We're obviously working on other stuff, but those are the things we're trying to accomplish over the next 3 to 5 years. Just some miscellaneous strengths about our school district. We have outstanding facilities. You probably know this. There's very few school districts in the state that can say they literally have, you know, all brand new schools. Our oldest schools are 10 years old. Maricopa High School is older than that, and a small portion of it is slightly older, but it's been totally remodeled and rebuilt. We're pretty amazing as far as school facilities go. Very thankful for that. And in the school business, if your schools are less than 10 years old, they're new. And so we're very proud of our wonderful facilities. Our Performing Arts Center at the high school is probably the jewel in the crown and just a wonderful facility for our community and our students. We have great partnerships with the City of Maricopa, other elected officials, and I've been here 3 years. I've heard rumors that we don't have a good relationship with the city, and I've honestly never seen it. In the 3 years that I've been here, I don't know about past history, and if somebody has an example of a problem that's occurred in the last 3 years, I wish you'd tell me about it, because we work very closely with the city. This is a good example. This was the night that Dr. Gary Miller was sworn in as our new board member, and we had most of the city council show up, we had a county commissioner show up, and just to show their support. Another wonderful example is the SRO, School Resource Officer Grant, that the city wrote on our behalf 2 years ago. It was successful, and now we have 3 school resource officers, 1 at each secondary school. The city didn't have to do that. They took the lead on that, and they made it happen. That's another example of the good relationship. We just, at our last governing board meeting, signed the new IGA concerning facilities. The old one had kind of really, outrun its usefulness. It was based on back when we were building buildings and we were getting free plan reviews and that kind of thing. We're not building anything now, so we had to redo it. But that was another good example of just the partnership that we have. We work closely together, and I'm not saying we always agree 100% on everything. We don't. That's not realistic. But we have a good partnership and a good close working relationship. I'm very proud of that. We have a lot of partnerships with the business community. The Maricopa Economic Development Alliance is one example. I sit on that board. They received a grant from the city to do a marketing plan for the city of Maricopa. They are in the middle of doing that. You may have seen one of the really nice interviews with Mayor Price talking about the assets in our community. The next phase of that will emphasize public education and MUSD and what we have to offer, because we know that a thriving community has to have good public schools. And so we're very proud of that partnership with Maricopa Economic Development Alliance. Our governing board is also a member of the Arizona Business Education Coalition. We work closely with that group to see how we can get business to better support public education in our state. So we're working on all those partnerships to improve public education. Some other random things that just I want to remind you about. If you do not have the MUSD mobile app, you better get it. You can get it on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for free, and that's a good way to keep track of your kid and parent view and all the stuff you need on your phone to keep track of information. We're also on Facebook, and you can follow us there. Every time we have a press release, it goes to all the local media. It also goes on Facebook. It also usually goes on our MUSD website page, but that's another easy way to keep track of us. Well, this year was an exciting year, and it really started off, I think, on a really positive note, and that is that we were able to return free all-day kindergarten. We went without it for 1 year because of budget cuts. We couldn't afford those 10 teaching positions. By raising our letter grade, it freed up some money from the state that allowed us to return to free all-day kindergarten. Even though the school district locally pays half the bill, the state only funds kindergarten students at half of a student. It's half funded, no longer fully funded by the state. We're able to offer it again this year. Most districts do that, so we're very proud of that. All 6 elementary schools returned to free all-day kindergarten this year. Also, our school sites had a new academic focus for 2014-15. For 2 brief years, we had 6 district-sponsored charter schools. That was the maximum number we could have, and it allowed us to get additional revenue from the state. We used those funds to spread between all 9 schools and asked each school to identify a new academic focus. I'll come back and talk about this. District-sponsored charter school funding ends at the end of this fiscal year, which is the end of the month, June 30th. But we will continue with our academic focus at each school. We just won't have as much money to support it as we had hoped, but this has been very helpful to our schools, to our students, and I think it's opened up some wonderful learning opportunities. We were able to purchase, for example, somewhere around 300 laptops, Chromebooks for student use at the beginning of the school year. We just put in a similar order this spring for next school year, so a lot of the money went into instructional technology for students, and that has been a very good thing for us. As you probably know, our Arizona Learns letter grades this year are up there on the screen. We had 1 A school, 4 B schools, and 4 C schools. Our district grade at the bottom there is a B. And as I said, our goal is to have every one of those be an A. This is really what I'm excited about, though. Our letter grades are based on state testing. And, of course, a year ago, that was the Ames test. And so we administer the AIMS test to grades 3 through 10. And this is the composite score from all of those grades. And so you can see that last spring's test scores, which determined this year's letter grade, we went from a composite score of 120 at the end of the 13-14 school year to 127 at the end of the 13-14 school year to determine this year's letter grade. So to move all of our students, 4,000 or 5,000 students, 7 points is pretty impressive, really, to see that progress. You need 140 points to be an A district, and that's our goal. We need 13 more points. A lot of other things to celebrate. Pima Butte had their 5th consecutive A letter grade, so we're very proud of that excellence that they are demonstrating at Pima Butte. We also had another wonderful asset in place this year, and that was the Auction Grant. The Tribal Council was generous enough to provide us with $1.3 million in 13-14 and $1.3 million in 14-15. We funded those 8 items. I don't want to talk about all of them, but I do want to highlight the 2 of them in red. Number 1 was remedial math teachers. We were able to employ 5 additional remedial math teachers at the 3 secondary schools. And that was a great help. It benefited all students, I believe, because it gave extra help to those kids that needed the remedial help. And then our regular classes were able to concentrate more on the other kids that didn't need as much remedial help. So it was a great benefit. Number 6, wireless installation and instructional technology upgrades. Prior to the grant, we only had the high school and this building with a wireless installation. And, in the year 2015, it's pretty standard to have wireless in place in an educational institution. So grant funds allowed us to build that out to all 9 schools. And there was actually a small portion of the high school that was not covered. So this has been a wonderful addition. It'll set us up to accomplish great things in the future, just on a daily basis with lessons that teachers are using, mobile carts being able to be utilized in every single classroom instead of just computer labs, state testing, et cetera. And so a lot of benefits there. Also, there was a lot of money available for instructional technology. So this spring, with the final grant dollars, we will be purchasing about another 350 laptops and carts to be allocated to the schools. So as I mentioned, we also are sending in a second order of about 350 for academic focus funded technology. So we have about 700 new computers that will be installed in place for next year, in addition to the 350 that were installed at the beginning of this year. So our tech department is busy, but these are important learning tools for our kids. And we're making good use of those, and we think it'll even be better next year. I could talk a lot about the grant. Won't talk about all 8 areas. It was a wonderful gift. It was clearly a 2-year gift, and it expires on June 30th. We purchased things or employed people that were extras, not part of our regular academic program. And so we think we'll have a good transition plan to go into the future. And I'll come back and talk about this a little bit more because we are going to be able to fund a few similar things that are on this list. I'll get to that in the budget discussion. Had to have some fun during the school year. We do crazy things in the school business. The Ice Bucket Challenge was a good example. I think every school participated, teachers, administrators, sometimes the kids. And so that was a crazy thing. I don't know why the whole country did that, but we participated in that. In September, we had an early homecoming. It was an awesome week. The mayor declared it Paint the Town Red Week. Our students went to the city council. I think the marching band was there, and it was wonderful to have that kind of support. On September 3rd, we had the parade, the alumni game, and a bonfire. The bonfire returned after being gone for many years, approved by the fire department, and I believe supervised by the fire department too. So I think it was a safe event, but a nice tradition. Awesome parade at Copper Sky. On the 5th, we had a pep rally with Fox 10's Corey McCloskey, and that was good coverage and a lot of good school spirit that week. We had the homecoming game in football on the 5th, and so it's a great event for our students. And Mary Grace has been a good driving force behind upgrading our homecoming, and so thank you to Mary for doing that. But it's really become a community event and a very great one. On October 10th, you should have received a district newsletter published by In Maricopa. It was sent out to all 20,000 Maricopa residents. That actually goes out on a quarterly basis. Maricopa Monitor publishes 2 a year. In Maricopa publishes 2 a year. We try to get the good news out about all the positive things that are happening in our school district, and you should see another one coming the first week of July. November 4th was Election Day, and that was a big election for MUSD. We had an override proposal, a 5% override proposal on the ballot, and we had, I believe that is mistaken. I believe we had 3 MUSD governing board positions on the ballot, I believe. Anyway, I think so. Anyway, the point is, on the override, we had a 43% yes for the second time. Did not fail. We need a 50, or did not pass. We need a 50% majority, 50% plus 1 for approval. I still believe MUSD needs an override. We are competing against Kyrene Elementary School District. We lose 780 students to Kyrene every year, and they have a 15% override in place and have had that override in place for many years. We're competing with the Tempe Union High School District. We have 525 students attending Tempe Union High Schools. They have a 10% override in place and have had that in place for many, many years. We're competing with 5 local charter schools. They receive $1,200 more per student than we do. And so they're able to have lower class size and additional programs. And so this is why we need an override. I continue to talk to the board about it. We are not planning to put it on the November 2015 ballot. This is a decision that will be up to the governing board, but you'll be hearing more about that recommendation in the future. Also in the November election, we congratulated Patty Goutre, Anna Marie Knorr, and Gary Miller on their election. So I knew there was 3 governing board members that were elected. Dr. Gary Miller was our new board member and replacing Scott Bartle, who did not run, and then Patty Goutre and Anna Marie were reelected. In November, we started an awesome partnership with the University of Arizona. The city actually got this thing started. And on November 4th, University of Arizona staff from the College of Engineering came and presented information about their engineering program to our top students at Maricopa High School. On the 10th of November, we had 50 students that actually got to tour U of A College of Engineering. We had a charter bus that took them down there, and it was grant funded. The city made that happen. There was also a third event where we had, I think, about 6 girls. They were trying to identify women in the College of Engineering, a potential future women in that program, and we had 6 or 10 Maricopa High School girls that actually got to go overnight on a tour of College of Engineering, University of Arizona, and that kind of thing. So this is a wonderful partnership we're going to continue to leverage and work on in the future. We're very proud of the fact that in December, the MUSD Governing Board was named the 2014 Arizona School Board Association Board of the Year. That's a pretty remarkable accomplishment. It's like winning the state title in basketball. There's 231 school districts in public school districts in the state of Arizona, and we were ranked the best. We were chosen as the best school board of the year. It was pretty remarkable. And it doesn't mean we're a perfect district. All 5 board members will be the first to tell you that. It just means that we are moving in the right direction. We're trying to apply research and best practice. We're trying to involve our community. We're trying to involve our parents, and we're trying to improve. That's really what it comes down to. There were more specific criteria, but that's pretty much the description of why that award was given. We're very proud of it. And in fact, if you come back to a governing board meeting, you'll notice there's a big trophy. It kind of looks like the Super Bowl trophy. We have it sitting right there in front of the podium, and we get to keep it for 1 year. So you got to you got to take advantage of that while you can. That same month, Tori Anderson was elected as Arizona School Board Association Secretary. So she's on the executive committee, and she helps keep us in line and in touch. And Christian, I think I pressed the wrong button there somehow. I'm sorry. I don't know if that was me or you. There we go. In November, we found out that Elisha Donaldson was voted first team All-State in football. And, we're all about academics. That's our focus. But, we have to celebrate the accomplishments of our students. And that's truly a remarkable accomplishment. We invited Elisha to a governing board meeting and gave him some recognition. That's pretty awesome. In January, our middle school Future Cities team placed first in state. Team from Maricopa Wells, and you can't go any higher than first in state. So we're very proud of that. We finished in the top 5 a year ago for the first time, and this team finished first. Very proud of the efforts of that program. Those students are in our Blended Learning 20+1 program at Maricopa Wells. Our teams from Desert Wind in that same program did an excellent job too, and so we're very proud of that good work that our students have done. Those same students then went on to the national competition in Washington, D.C., and they won 2 national awards, Best Residential Zone and Most Sustainable Food Production System for their future city. And they didn't win the national championship, but we're just very proud of them for going and participating at that level. The teacher of the year for the Chamber of Commerce was Susanna Buisson, who is a teacher at Butterfield Elementary. Very proud of her. And Kathleen Kelly, also from Butterfield Elementary, was the Maricopa, or however that's spelled up there, sorry about that, a VFW Citizenship Education Teacher Award winner. So a lot of good accolades for those two teachers from Butterfield. Just two examples of the great teachers we have in our district. In March, our robotics teams did well at the state competition. Maricopa Elementary School placed 13th, Saddleback placed 16th, and Pima Butte placed 17th. We had 5 teams this year, and we hope to have 9, one at each school, next year. The Maricopa Auction STEAM Foundation, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, have provided the money, the startup money for the kits that each team needs. And this has really helped us get started and jump-started us. Another good example of a good partnership that we have. This is a wonderful activity for kids, and we want to see that continue to grow. That same day, we won the girls basketball Division II state championship, which was pretty remarkable. And we went into the tournament seeded 12th, and we won the whole thing. So we're very proud of the girls for that wonderful performance. I do have some bad news, is that we have accepted the resignation of Katie Burrows as of yesterday. She is going to be an assistant coach at Montana State University. And so we are very proud of her. Very proud of her. She was Arizona Coach of the Year for women's basketball. Really the highest award you can win, obviously, in that category. Awesome coach, great PE teacher, wonderful influence on our girls and our whole school. But we wish her well. I mean, that's really quite an accomplishment to go to the college ranks as an assistant coach, and I'm sure she's going to be a head coach at college ranks in the near future and continue that same success. So very proud of her, even though she's leaving us. And proud of the girls, too. We have a lot of student recognition regularly. We try to emphasize that. Schools do. We do with the governing board. Every month we have Rotary Students of the Month here in the governing board room, and have a great partnership with Rotary to recognize the good accomplishments of our students. We won our own softball tournament in the spring with our girls softball team, the Kristen Deal tournament. A lot of good activities for kids. 17 varsity sports at the high school level, and those are good activities for kids. We know the research shows that kids are involved in activities, and it doesn't matter if it's athletics, music, drama, clubs, they do better in school, higher grades and higher graduation rates, and that's why an activity program is very important. On March 17th, we had the first annual Pima Butte Science Fair. They tell me that's going to be an annual event, and I was one of the judges. That was an awesome science fair. We continue to make small facility improvements. Planted a bunch more grass in the courtyard at Maricopa Wells Middle School this year. We are able to install 2 new reader boards, one at Saddleback, one at Maricopa. I know there's one in the works for Butterfield. And then this coming year, we hope to add one at Santa Cruz so that all 6 elementary schools have reader boards. So we save up for those projects and try and continue to make those improvements. But this is an awesome communication tool, just one more communication tool with our parents and community. We work hard on school safety. I regularly tell staff, reading, writing, language arts, science, social studies, academics, that's really not our primary focus. We have to have a #1 focus on school safety. If kids don't feel safe on a daily basis, they can't learn. If parents don't think the school is safe, they're not going to send their kids to our schools, and we work very hard on this issue. And it goes all the way down to very low-level stuff like name-calling and bullying, particularly in the elementary school, middle school. And we work hard on those issues daily. One of the things we did this year was a school safety tabletop exercise where we practiced our crisis plan. Unfortunately, it's a reality in public schools. You have to have a crisis plan in place, and we've had one for 20 years. We try to improve it every year regularly. We had a good tabletop exercise working with local agencies on ways to keep our schools safe. We had a wonderful MUSD Art Walk here in this building. It's an annual event, another example of a very positive activity. And our MUSD Business Department won the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for about the 10th year in a row. On your way out, if you look in the lobby, you'll see all their framed plaques, and we're just proud of the good business office that we have and the recognition they get for doing a good job keeping track of all the money. Some other news that was announced about that same time, about a month ago, is that we have a new principal at Santa Cruz Elementary. Dr. Lorraine Conley will be joining us. She's been an elementary principal in the Phoenix Elementary School District for the last 10 years. She also lives in Maricopa, so her commute will be much less to Santa Cruz. And we're very excited to have her. Gina Chaffin has been the principal at Santa Cruz the last 2 years, and she is going to take a 1-year leave of absence. We hope that she returns to us, and if she does, or I should say when she does, she won't go back as principal at Santa Cruz, but we're going to find a place for her in the school district because she's a great educator. And it'll either be a principal position or a teaching position. On May 7th, we had our Maricopa High School Annual Evening of Honors, $2,100,000 in scholarship offers for our 340 graduates. I believe 188 separate scholarship offers, so we are proud of that. Wasn't a new record for us, but it was still a very respectable number. On May 12th, we had the annual Perfect Attendance Barbecue. Now, this is a big deal because to be at the Perfect Attendance Barbecue, you can't even check out early for a doctor appointment. Perfect means perfect. There are no absences allowed, period. And so that's why the group is relatively small, but that's a fun way to end the year, too. On May 21st, we had the Maricopa High School graduation ceremony. It was a beautiful evening, and it was a great event. On the next day, we had our annual MUSD Best of the Best recognition event. And staff members can nominate other staff members for this recognition. These were the 3 teachers of the year. Shannon Hull on the left, standing next to me. She's in our 20+1 program at Desert Wind. Roger Wagner is the music teacher at Desert Wind. And Kristen McMullen, 4th grade teacher, 5th grade teacher at Butterfield. 3 awesome teachers and well-deserved recognition. A lot of other people received similar recognition. I don't have a picture of everybody, but that's a very positive way for us to end the school year and kind of celebrate our accomplishments. Other news, about that same time on June 9th, we learned that, about that same time we learned that our new governing board member would be Rhonda Melvin. Leslie Carlisle Burnett resigned, and so the county superintendent goes through an application process and chooses the replacement. It will be Rhonda Melvin. So on the 9th, next Tuesday, normally our board meetings are on Wednesday, but next week it'll be on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Meeting starts at 6:30. We're going to have the swearing in of Rhonda Melvin, and Lyle Riggs will be here to swear her in. You're all invited to come and shake her hand and thank her for doing it, because governing board members don't get paid. It's a labor of love and really a public service that they do helping us out. So we're excited to be working with Rhonda, and she will be on board officially next week. Okay. That's the overview of positive stuff. Any questions on any of that? Okay, we'll move on. The 15-16 budget, board's been working on this for several months. But to start, we have to talk about what our real budget problem is. And it has to do with Arizona K-12 funding. Since 2008, Arizona state per pupil funding has declined from $4,654 per student to $3,529. That's adjusted for inflation. The legislature is supposed to adjust funding for inflation. And so that's a 24% decline in per student funding. This is the single biggest reason why we struggle, why our class sizes are larger, why we don't have more advanced programs, is because we have been cut over the last 20 years in state funding. The good news is the last 2 years have been somewhat stable. The cuts have decreased, but the increases have not begun. And this is our biggest problem. So the per pupil state school revenue, you can see in that middle section there with the map of the United States, the change in K-12 per pupil public school state revenue over 20 years dropped us. We were 39th in fiscal year 93, and we are now 50th in fiscal year 2013. Those are figures from the U.S. Census Bureau, and that's the biggest challenge that we have. We also do not have an override in place, as I mentioned, and this is why other districts are able to withstand these cuts better than we are, and why their class size is better. So the major state-funded program cuts in recent years have been full-day kindergarten. It's only funded half. Local funds have to make up the rest. Capital funding has been cut. Career Ladder was cut, although MUSD was never involved in Career Ladder, but statewide that was an issue. Student success funding was cut this year. You'll see that on one of my slides. And then 9th grade career and technical education have been cut over the years. So those are where the cuts have occurred. There's also a theory out there that One reason is that we don't have enough money is because we have highly paid administrators and too many of them, and it's not correct. We are very lean in administration. These are the figures for 2013. You can see that MUSD spends about $715 per student. The state spends somewhere around $745 per student. Those are the 2013 slide. That's the 2013 slide. I didn't have time to update it for the fiscal year 2014. That's the most recent numbers that are available from the state. Our number has dropped down below $700. I believe we're at $683 per student in administration. And then that also, the other two bars have gone up in the last year. So we've actually further economized our administrative costs, and it's not just principal salaries and my salaries, it's other support positions, payroll, for example, and other staff members you need to have an administration. So we're lean in administration, and that's really not one of our problems. Some other things related to grant that are issues. As you know, as I mentioned, the grant funds end, the Octane grant funds end on June 30th, and as I mentioned, we use those grant funds to pay for 5 secondary math teachers, 5 reading paraprofessionals, 1 teacher on special assignment, and that person has acted as an assistant principal at Saddleback Elementary, and then 2 periods of Maricopa High School credit recovery. So those grant-funded positions will go away. The good news is we are adding back a total of 5 teaching positions next year. We're adding 2 special ed teaching positions as a result of enrollment growth in special education. We're adding 2 structured English immersion positions, one at the elementary level and one at the high school level, because our grant from the state in that category went up. And then we're adding a gifted teacher. So there's some good news there that we will retain roughly the same amount of teachers. We will also retain 2 periods of Maricopa High School credit recovery. We cannot afford to continue to fund the other 2 items on that list. The other issue that I mentioned is the district-sponsored charter school funding ends on June 30th. That brought in an additional $2.3 million this year, $2.3 million last year. This was how we spent the money, allocated the money this year. You can see that we only spent $725,000 of this year's allocation from district-sponsored charter schools. The rest of that funding has gone into reserve. And this is the primary reason why we don't have to cut budgets, lay people off, increase class size for this coming school year. Is we were able to put that money in our rainy day fund. Won't last forever, but we'll be able to use some of those reserve funds in this coming year, maybe for 1 or 2 more years after that, to get us through this time when we either need to pass an override or receive additional state funding from the state, or both. There is also another issue that's hanging out there that was reported really this week. The Capital Times reported this week that there's a possible repayment of district-sponsored charter school funding. When we signed the contract with the state, it was a 15-year agreement that we would provide district-sponsored charter schools and they would provide us additional money. And the contract said that if we changed our mind for whatever reason, that we would have to pay back all the money. We were happy to make that deal and sign that document. The legislature changed the rules. They ended district-sponsored charter school funding at the end of this month, and they did intend to put a clause in there that said we don't have to pay the money back. Apparently that clause did not make it into the budget bill, into the proper legislation, and technically we're on the hook for that money. I believe the legislature will fix that, and I think this problem will go away, but I heard it reported again last night on Channel 5 News. So it's out there. I just want you to be aware of it. We're monitoring this situation. We think we'll be okay. If worse came to worse, we had to pay it back. The state does have a payment plan. I don't think it's on a credit card, but there's some kind of a payment plan that we can get on and pay it back over a period of 10 years, which is in reality what we would have to do, but I don't think it'll come to that. Okay, a few of you were on the budget committee, so thank you for doing that. We started meeting in December. It's our annual tradition. We had about 30 people on there, and we value input. You know, it's important to know what our community thinks about the budget, and so we went through a prioritization process that has been helpful to the governing board. This was the final list that the budget committee came up with. The budget committee was very clear that we could not fund all of these things, but the budget committee also believed that this would provide guidance to the governing board, and that certainly has been the case as our budget discussions have gone on. So the number 1 priority was to retain all staff. Ideally, the committee would like to have kept all 5 of those remedial math positions. As I mentioned, we can't do that, but the good news is we are hiring 5 additional teachers. Number 2 was a cost of living raise for all staff. To provide a 1% cost of living adjustment to all of our staff members would cost $261,000. The governing board went in a little different direction. The governing board allocated $260,000 in increased compensation for this upcoming school year, but did it in a different way. It is not a 1% across the board. There will be a flat $216 bonus payment, stipend, whatever you want to call it, to every staff member that will go out in December. And that will cost $130,000. The other $130,000 we are allocating to implement a new compensation plan. As you may know, if you follow this at all, for years and years, school districts nationwide, including our district, have had a salary schedule where teachers are granted a small increase, about a 2% increase each year for experience. And then after about 15 years, then you top out at the top of the salary schedule. It encourages people to stay with the profession. For 4 years during the depths of the recession, we were not able to fund that. We didn't get sufficient funding. We did give raises if you went back to college, got a master's or whatever, but the annual raise did not happen. So if you weren't working on a master's or something, your pay stayed the same. Well, that's pretty normal. I mean, you know, that happened in a lot of districts in Arizona, a lot of districts around the nation. But nonetheless, we had made a promise to our employees that we weren't able to keep. And so we have implemented a new compensation plan that no longer guarantees an annual increase for experience. It will be more based on available funds and what kind of cost of living adjustment we can make based on those available funds. Teachers can still receive additional compensation for additional education, but the annual experience raise has gone away. To implement that new system, we felt it was only right to provide a stipend to the teachers that stayed with us over this period when we weren't able to grant raises. And so that comes out to $130,000. If you're here 4 years, your payment is higher than if you're here 1 year during the freeze, but you do receive additional compensation for that, and teachers will receive that in next year's compensation. They have to return to us next year, but that's how the board decided to do it. I think it was a wise decision because it fixes our compensation system for the future. Because of the cuts in state funding, we can no longer support that salary schedule. And I'm very unhappy to have to say that. I think it was a sad event, but literally every school district in the state of Arizona has gone to this type of compensation plan over the last 3 or 4 years. So that was how the rest of that additional compensation was allocated. Number 3, the next priority was reduce class size. Everybody wants to reduce class size. I want to. The budget committee wants to. The governing board wants to. We can't afford it. Ideally, we would add 10 more teachers to reduce class size. We can't. We just can't afford it. Wouldn't be prudent to do that. We need to keep some reserve funds. We need to level out this funding stream over the next several years. That's our challenge. We don't expect class size to go up this next year. It'll stay stable. We believe, unless we get a large influx of enrollment, and if we get large influx of enrollment, we'll be able to hire additional teachers, but nonetheless, it's not going to be lower. And that's just a reality that we face until we are able to pass an override or receive additional funding from the state of Arizona. About 93% of our funding comes from the state of Arizona. About 7% is from federal. So that's really where all the money is, and that's why we're in the situation we are. Number 4, the 4th priority was a marketable gifted program. And the committee used the word marketable on purpose because they want to, the point was that this is one reason we lose students to Kyrene and Tempe Union. It's because they have better gifted programs. So we've had this program in the past. We're able to restore it this year. And so we actually, this is the good news part, is that we have hired a gifted teacher, and I'll come back and talk about that in a moment, to serve our elementary students. And so we're happy about that. Hopefully that program will expand in the future, but we want to get started again. And that letter that will go out this week to all 780 Kyrene parents will, of course, talk about this new gifted program that we have for elementary students, and hopefully that will carry some weight. And then number 5, ideally we would add one additional elementary counselor or social worker, but we can't afford to do that. So that was the priority list, and a lot of thought went into that, a lot of discussion. This is the proposed budget that was adopted by the governing board at our last meeting. State law says that you have to adopt a proposed budget, which is kind of the draft form, and then you adopt the final budget. And so this was adopted at our last governing board meeting. We will adopt the final budget at our July meeting, and it's the second Wednesday in July, which I think is somewhere around July 10th, somewhere in there. We'll have 2 meetings then to review this proposed budget. But this is what we're looking at. The top section is our budget revenue, and the state calls it a limit. In other words, this is the max that we would expect to receive. So our general budget limit, $33,559,000. We also call that the M&O, or the maintenance and operation budget. That's our biggest chunk of money. That's where we pay for almost all of our expenses. The second item, unrestricted capital. That would be capital projects. Remodel, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, stuff like that. Next one, federal projects, $4,245,000, primarily special education funding. There is some career and technical education funding in there. And then the next item, impact aid. We receive from the federal government $425,000 in impact aid funding because of the Auction Indian Reservation. The Auction Reservation, they do not pay local property tax, but this is kind of the way that they do contribute in a big way to our school district. With the impact aid funding from the federal government in recognition of the fact that they are tax exempt from local taxes. So our total budget limit, the maximum we could ever possibly receive this year would be $41 million. You can see from the bottom sentence there, this proposed budget is estimated high because adopted budgets cannot be greater than proposed budgets. I don't believe we will receive that much revenue this year, but just in case we have additional students enroll, we want to budget high because we can't increase this after we adopt it formally in July. Budgeted expenditures then pretty much match up with that, as you can imagine, and we don't plan to spend all the money even if we get all that money, and so the maximum we would spend this year would be $37,727,000. So that's the proposed budget that the board has approved, and then they'll continue to discuss that and make minor changes over the next couple of meetings. So here's some highlights of that. As I said, the M&O budget, which is $33,559,000, is the biggest chunk, so this is what we really focus on. So number one, the proposed budget is based on 6,000 average daily membership. We actually have 6,200 students, but the state is smart. They say, we only are going to give you money on, well, we're only going to give you half of a kid for kindergarten, and then we're going to also factor in your attendance, which is a good motivation to keep our attendance up. So our average daily membership is lower than our actual number of students. And then we'll most likely revise our budget down in December for student counts. That's been our past practice, as I mentioned. We start high and then we equalize it with real numbers in December, just the way it's done in the state of Arizona. There are some revenue changes. Number two, we receive an inflation factor for this coming fiscal year. That's the 2015-16 school year. It's referred to as fiscal year 16. We will receive $452,000 for inflation. So the state has started making those inflation payments. That was the main payment they missed over the last 6-8 years. And those figures are from the Joint Budget Legislative Committee. The inflation factor for 2016 lawsuit, we will receive an additional $394,000. I don't know if you followed this, but state courts have said that the legislature must pay back the inflation funding that they did not pay, and they made a down payment on that this year in the form of $394,000. They actually owe a lot more to our district than that, and every district, but at least there was some recognition of that lawsuit settlement. The next one, DAA, District Additional Assistance Reduction. That reduction is $900,000. So they took from one pot and they added to another one. And then the student success reduction, that also went away, $114,000. That was a Governor Brewer program. We have new governors, so you have new programs. So, number three, expenditures. Expenditure increases. Utility supplies, materials, equipment, that will go up $30,000. Special ed staff, actually be a net of 1.5, that will be $90,000. We have CAVIT, that's the Vocational Skills Center located in Coolidge. A number of our high school students attend that program. And so we will have to spend an additional $50,000 on that. The longevity stipend that I mentioned of $130,000 for employees that are with us next year will receive that. And then the next item, the annual stipend, we're doing some salary equalization as I described. The net on that with some reductions that we've made will be $100,000, and then we're adding an elementary gifted teacher. So those are just some of the highlights. And be glad to answer any questions you might have on budget. It'll be one teacher, and I'll give you the details in just a minute. We will have a new requirement from the state is that we have to have a special budget meeting where we kind of do this kind of thing and give a little bit more detailed information, which is kind of a new wrinkle. So we haven't identified when that meeting will be. You're also welcome to attend the next two governing board meetings, give any input that you have on call to the public. And it's a work in progress, and we won't be done until we're done. Yes? Yes, I'm forgetting that we're broadcasting. So the question was, how are special education teachers funded? Is it federal funds, state funds, or both? The answer is both. And the state does a pretty good job of reimbursing us for our higher cost special education students. We do have to supplement it with local funds. So there are federal funds available, there are state funds available. It doesn't cover all of our costs. Last year, I believe we were about $350,000 in local funding, really reserve funding, to meet our obligations in special education, which are required programs. We're happy to provide them. But another reality for us is that we have a higher percentage of special education students than we would normally have if the charters took their fair share. It's a common problem in the state of Arizona. It's not just Maricopa. Charters don't take their fair share of special education students. I don't mean that in a negative way, it's just a reality. We're happy to educate our special education students. They're a crucial part of our student body. We want every kid to get a good education. It's just a fiscal reality. And so that is another reason why our program continues to grow. Any other questions on budget? If you have specific questions, I know there might be real specific ones. I'm happy to stay after and answer them. So I'll keep rolling. We don't want people on TV to get bored here. You know, we got to keep this moving along. So I'm trying not to talk too fast. Gifted and talented. I stole these slides from Krista Barrett, so they should look familiar if you were at the last meeting, but I know some people haven't kept up with this, and so just to review where we're at with our gifted and talented program. Who is gifted and talented? Someone who shows or has the potential for showing an exceptional level of performance in one or more areas: verbal, nonverbal, or quantitative, math skills. And you don't have to be gifted in all three. You only have to test as gifted in one of those three. And we expect that about 3% of the student population will be identified as gifted. That's the way the model is set up. Small group. Currently, MUSD gifted and talented students, 136 students. These numbers are in the process of being updated. We just did another round of testing, and so but as of about a month ago or so, these were the numbers: 56 at the elementary level, 25 at the middle level, 55 at the high school, and you can see the numbers there. And you can also see the numbers don't add up totally. Maricopa High School is showing 49, somewhere between 49 and 55 at Maricopa High School, identified as gifted, and so on. We think that it's possible that we are under identifying students because we haven't had a high-profile elementary gifted program. We're thinking that some parents probably don't have their kids tested, and we think we will see a few more kids identified. We added, as I mentioned, a recent round of testing, and so we'll be interested to see those numbers. So gifted identification is done either by the teacher or parent. That's how the process gets started, and then we test intellectual ability. Cognitive ability testing, and students must score 97% in one area, as I mentioned, And we test a minimum of 2 times a year. This time we tested 3 times a year. If we have a new student come to our district that needs testing, was in a gifted program in another state, something like that, we will test individual students as they come in. So we try and keep kids identified regularly. The test we use is called COGAT, is the name of that test. There's another test that we recognize from other students from other districts and states. If it's a GATE gifted test and there's a score, then we accept that score. And once you're identified as gifted, you're in, and you don't need to be retested. But those are the 2 indicators that we use. If a student came to us with a 3rd test, those are the only 2 we're recognizing at this time. So our model for 2015-16 is that we will have 1 certified gifted teacher to provide pull-out gifted instruction for grades 3 through 6. We will continue to provide professional development support for all classroom teachers. And we want to work with our gifted kids at all grade levels and not just grades 3 through 6. Ideally, we would have a designated gifted program for elementary, middle, and high school, but we can't afford that. This is what we can afford, so we will continue to do the cluster model, we call it, where we will continue to cluster gifted kids in grade bands and classes. We'll start a family liaison quarterly meeting process with our new teacher. Zoe Redfern is our new teacher, highly respected teacher from Butterfield Elementary. And she will lead those quarterly meetings. And then, of course, we'll continue with the honors classes and AP classes, that's advanced placement classes at the secondary level. And advanced placement is at the high school only. We're very excited this year at Maricopa High School. We will be offering 4 CAC classes, 2 math classes and 2 English classes. They'll be dual credit classes. Our own staff will teach them. And so you can either get junior English credit or English 101 credit, senior English credit or CAC English credit. And it'll be a dual credit kind of thing. So we're excited to do that. And we think there's going to be a lot of interest by our students in that. The elementary gifted program will be housed at Saddleback, and will serve classroom bands 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 is what tentative plan calls for. They'll be in 2 different groups, so we'll bus the kids into Saddleback. And the exact schedule, I do not know. We're still working on it. Krista Roden is really the brains behind this. She and Zoe Redfern are meeting to get this figured out. The program will have a focus on technology and project-based learning. And then, as I mentioned, students, families, and the teacher will develop a learning plan for each student. So we think it's a model that will work. We're excited about it. Zoe Redfern has applied for her gifted endorsement, and I haven't heard if that's been approved yet. We believe that she meets qualifications for a gifted endorsement, and if she needs to finish a class or something, I know she's planning to do that to get that gifted endorsement completed. Any questions on gifted? Yes? I'm not surprised you're asking a question about this, Mary.
I have 2 parts. We acknowledge that we're not doing anything for our older gifted students right now because of lack of funds. But is there something that we can do, such as the gifted committee was pushing that the 20+1 program is a good option for our gifted students. But what are we doing for those identified gifted students in 20+1 that we're not doing what can we do for them? And if we're doing a support program for elementary identified gifted students, can we not do that for our older gifted students, especially when they get into high school?
I'm sorry, I forgot we're live. Can you repeat that question?
It has been acknowledged that we are not doing anything specifically for our older gifted students because of lack of funds. But is there something that we can do for our older gifted students? For instance, in the gifted committee that we attended, it was stated that the 20+1 program is a good option for gifted students. What are we doing for those identified gifted students in 20+1? And also the older students in high school, if we're doing a support program for the elementary students, why can we not do that for the high school students? Because once they get into high school, these gifted students tend to forget that they are gifted because it's not been acknowledged for so long. And if we're pushing the honors and AP program, if you talk to students, you'll find that not many of them are even passing these AP tests. Is it possible for us to have a gifted honors town hall to get everybody involved, teachers, parents, students, in one room where we can identify problems, brainstorm and tackle this and reach for solutions that we can do within our district without the funds. Surely there's something we can do to acknowledge, not only acknowledge, but meet the needs of our older gifted students.
I think there are about 5 questions in there, so I'll do my best. You'll have to remind me if I don't cover them all. First of all, I don't acknowledge that we're not doing anything for our secondary gifted kids. We are. We have 9 advanced placement courses, and those are good options for our gifted students. And we're proud of that we have 9. That's a good number for a high school our size. I think the college and the high school CAC classes will help in that regard also. We do have the honors programs at the elementary level, at the middle school level and the high school level. And so I do acknowledge you don't have a designated gifted teacher at the middle level and the high school level, but I think we have multiple ways to challenge our gifted kids. Can we do better? Absolutely. Do I wish we had more money so that we could hire a dedicated gifted teacher at each level? Yes, I do, but we can't afford it. I cannot in good conscience recommend that to the governing board. So that's kind of the conundrum that we're in. Until we get additional funding, we're kind of stuck in some ways. Now, I like your idea that it's not always all about money. I agree. I totally agree with that. And you know, we had like 20,000 volunteer hours this last year from community members. That's a good example of a resource that can help us get stuff done. So I recognize that there are options for that. And yeah, if you're interested in getting another town hall meeting on gifted, I think that's a good idea. We had a similar meeting a few months ago. Chris Roden led that meeting, used some of these same slides. And I think that that's possible. I think we can keep this issue alive because I think it is important. I think we need to challenge all of our kids. Our gifted kids, our kids that are in the general track, our special education kids, we need to meet the needs of every student because that's really what our mission statement's all about. And so anyway, we have financial constraints, and those are kind of some of the things we're living with. So anything else that I didn't cover? Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating when we want to do a lot more and we have limited resources. Any other questions on gifted? AZMerit. What is AZMerit? Now, there's a good question. You probably know a little bit more about it now than you did 6 months ago. AZMerit is Arizona's statewide achievement assessment for English, language arts, and mathematics. So how is AZMerit different from AIMS? AZMerit is aligned to the current standards. Those are the Arizona College and Career Standards. Those are really the curriculum expectations that teachers are aiming their instruction at. We had an older set of standards that were replaced about 2 years ago by the Arizona College and Career Ready Standards. They are at a higher level of rigor. They are more demanding. And that's a good thing. We're challenging our students at the highest level we have ever. Second bullet, AZMerit is a computer-based assessment with a greater variety of test item types. So the test is fairly complicated. I shouldn't say complicated. There's just more to it. It's not a bubble sheet where you have multiple choice and you fill in the bubble. There's interactive reading involved, there's essays involved, and that kind of thing. It is true that it's computer-based. This spring, when we took AZMerit for the first time, we only had one school that was ready technology-wise to do it on computers. That was Santa Rosa Elementary. But we are very close in all other schools, and our goal is to have all 9 schools do the computer-based testing next spring. That's the goal. The test really works better on computer than it does in pencil paper form. And third bullet, high school testing is now end of course. So you don't just get tested in grade 10, you get tested in grades 9, 10, and 11 in English and math at the end of the course. That's a big difference. How is AZMerit different from AIMS? AZMerit results will identify if students are on track to be college and career ready upon graduation from high school. It will provide more and better information to moms and dads. Last bullet, AZMerit results will be comparable to statewide test results in many other states. Not all 50, but a little better comparison. Who will take AZMerit? Students in grades 3 through high school will take AZMerit. This will include all our English language learner students and most students with disabilities. We did the same thing with our AIMS test. We tested virtually everyone. There is an alternate achievement test that is offered to eligible students with significant cognitive disabilities in our special education program. But that's a very small group, less than 5% of our population. So, students in grades 3 through 8 will be tested in English language arts, ELA, you got to get used to that, We don't just call it English anymore. They'll be tested in ELA, math, and they'll be tested at that grade level. So third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, et cetera, get tested annually. And then students enrolled in high school level courses will be tested in English 9, English 10, English 11, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. At the end of each course, and it's regardless of a student's grade. So yeah, it's not just that we're going to test all ninth graders, right? I mean, if a ninth grader's not in one of those classes, that ninth grader won't be tested. No, that's not going to happen. A ninth grader will be in there. But if an advanced student goes through there, if we have a ninth grader in geometry, for example, the ninth grader will take that geometry test. So it's not the grade that's being tested, it's the students in that classroom who are learning that content at that time. So that'll be better. Because there were occasions where maybe you had math, you had your final math class as a junior, you didn't pass the Ames test, you have to take it again as a senior, you're not in that class anymore. This is a better system, it'll be end of course. The end of course testing plan is that the first 3 years, I mentioned this already, first 3 years of high school English, first 3 years of math, administered near the end of the course, and it'll measure the mastery of the standards taught in that course. Testing will be offered spring, summer, and fall. Results may be included in course grades at the high school level. We have not made a decision on that yet. And then passing the EOC test is not required for high school graduation. Passage of the Ames for many years was required for high school graduation, and that part goes away. Scoring. The number of score levels at AZMerit is under discussion. We expect AZMerit to have at least 2 passing score levels. So right now, on Ames there was 4, right? There was exceeds, meets, approaching, falls far below. And if you were meeting or exceeding, you passed Ames. So they're still figuring this out. It may just be 2 levels, kind of pass and don't pass, or it might be 3. I don't know where they're going to end up. State board, I believe, has to make that decision. Second bullet, a passing score on AZMerit will mean a student is on track for college or career upon graduation. But as I mentioned, it's a higher expectation level. And reports will identify students' areas of strength and weakness. We're not going to score as well on AZMerit. No one will. The prediction is that nationwide, the new test, aligned to the new standards, will result in 30 to 40% drops in student raw scores. And it doesn't mean the kids are not working hard, or it doesn't mean the teachers aren't teaching hard. It means that we have new standards in place, K through 12, and it's going to take us a few years to recalibrate. And so we kind of need a new baseline to know where we are so that we can make adjustments accordingly. But Maricopa is not going to be alone in that. That's going to be a national issue. When will AZMerit be given? I think I meant to delete that slide. We just finished spring testing window. One good piece of news is that AZMerit testing times are shorter than Ames, not a lot, but a little bit. And then spring 2015 AZMerit results will be available after the start of the school year. The thing that's very good, though, is that in the future, results will be available before the end of the school year. So this is kind of the first time through. It's going to be slower. It'll be wonderful to get those results back so that teachers can use that end-of-course data and that kind of thing at end-of-the-year conferences or grades. Yes?
Will that set of results for this year be given to the parents and the schools?
I believe so. I believe so. Just a longer timeline. So anyway, kind of back to that little chart there, you can see why it's an advantage to go with computer-based. You have a longer window, right, where you can administer the test. That helps when you're trying to cram all that testing in a school in like a 2-week period. Law to include student academic growth data in evaluations. And that is something maybe you thought we've been doing for years and years, but it hasn't. Nationwide, that has not been the case. It's now required in the state of Arizona. We're in about our 3rd year of working through this. It's been a rocky process. It's something that we're not really used to doing, but we're doing it. And I think the good news about it is that teachers have always paid close attention to student achievement data, but they're even paying more attention closer to student achievement data and how each student is doing academically. What kind of progress are they making? How can I help this kid do better? And I think that's a positive thing. And then A through F letter grades will continue to be determined by this. And that is all I have. I'm open to any questions. If you don't have any, that's fine. If you want to stay after and ask individual ones, that's fine too. Thank you for coming. I'm going to do the same thing at 7 o'clock tonight, so you're welcome to come back. Or, you can watch us on Channel 18, or you can watch us on YouTube, so you have a lot of options. So anyway, thank you for coming.